Our next guest says the White House does have to tread carefully here, and it's better to keep Fannie and Freddie in conservatorship for those exact reasons. Libby Cantrill is head of public policy at PIMCO. And Libby, people forget, but PIMCO is probably one of the biggest mortgage-backed security holders in the. How big is the portfolio? Like a couple trillion?
Well, yeah, I mean, total for the GSEs, it's around close to $7 trillion. And of course, wow. We manage money on behalf of our clients. But yes, we are a large participant in the agency mortgage market. And so very much care about the stability of that market like we know the White House does.
Right. So what would it mean? I mean, even just talking about these, floating this as you would, that's not having any real impact on spreads, is it? Because this does go back to the first administration, and I think people are skeptical anything will happen. I haven't seen what the preferreds are doing. The biggest upside is obviously for those equity holders potentially, but maybe it's already priced in. What's the possible downside here?
Yeah, so I think, a couple of things, Kelly. One is, and just sort of zooming out, we think it's really important to not, don't fix what's not broken in terms of the liquidity in the secondary mortgage market, really the congressional intent of Fannie and Freddie. They're doing this very well in terms of access to the all-important 30-year fixed mortgage rate. The fact that somebody can get that in Corona Del Mar, California, they can get the same rate as in Corona, New Mexico, very different housing markets. But if they have the same kind of borrower credit, they can access the same rate. And that is a utility, that is a function of the GSEs. And I think that is a real social good and economic good that they do. I think our concern is that if they do release them, particularly if they release them without a really clear plan about that guarantee, really making that guarantee explicit via Congress. This cannot be done unilaterally. This would have to go through Congress. That there is really a risk that a lot of our clients may view this as something with credit risk, meaning that instead of just viewing this as sort of Treasury-like, they would view agency mortgage backs with some credit premium. And of course, as you said earlier, that means that rates would go up. So I think generally speaking, what the White House does with this obviously is their prerogative, but we would just urge policymakers to really be clear about what their objective is. And again, we would argue that these entities are working pretty well in conservatorship.
Well, to your point, if the risk is that mortgage rates go even higher from where they are now, the first administration, at least rates were low. You could mess with it maybe 20 basis points. I don't know what the number is, not the end of the world. Now it would seem like a very different story. How does this FICO controversy fit into it? Do you think that's a tempest in a teapot?
A little bit. I think that, this is obviously something that Director Pulte is very focused on. I'm not sure we would say this is really a critical issue. I think something that's much more important, obviously, is this idea of kind of the future of the GSEs. And I think, Kelly, just to be very clear, we would welcome sort of shrinking or just over time making smaller the government footprint in terms of housing finance. But we would argue that that is actually much easier to do while in conservatorship. FHFA has a lot of authority. They can actually sort of shrink the government footprint to make them more aligned with the original congressional intent. Actually, Director Calabria, that you said, former Director Calabria, who you had talked about just a moment ago, he did some things in 2020 to actually do just that. So again, I think our view here is that there are things that FHFA and the government could do in order to sort of shrink their footprint in the housing market. But again, much easier to do in conservatorship. But in terms of the FICO score, we think that's a little bit of a tertiary issue in terms of this broader debate.